This is Musical Shenanigans, the podcast. We're back again to wine you, to dine you, to entertain you as best as we consensually can. Stick around for Pixies, Big Star, Robyn, and Sly and the Family Stone. And now, straight for your mom's boudoir, it's Cory, Scott, Dave, and of course, your mom. Welcome back, folks. This is Cory.
And this is Dave.
And this is Scott. Praise Satan.
Praise Satan. And we are back again. Now, yes, we have been remiss, so if there's any new listeners today, hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Yeah,
welcome to hell.
Yes, welcome to Musical Shenanigans, where we pick albums at random from the Rolling Stone Top 500 and discuss them. But not only that, we take the albums and pit them against one another.
Yes, did Rolling Stone get it right, or did Rolling Stone get it wrong? The idea is we put these...
They all got
that's
it wrong.
True. I mean, my opinion matters, and go fuck yourself. But we put these albums head to head. And two albums go in, one album comes out of our little cage match. And if it comes out of our cage match, it moves on to the next round. Right now, we are still in round one, but we're not starting with the whole list of 500 because, frankly, even we can only take so much of ourselves. But the idea is we start out with, what was it, 128? Yeah,
yes.
So 128 randomly selected albums, counting them down, and we are committed to seeing it through all the way until there is one album to rule them all.
We're kicking out pounds of flesh left and right.
And that is what we do. So, on this show, the albums that are up against each other will be, in round one, Pixies, Doolittle, against Big Star, Third, also called Sister Lovers. In round two, it will be Robyn with Body Talk, against Sly and the Family Stone, Stand.
Oh, yeah!
Okay, so we backstage played a game of Uno, and I won. So I'm going first. Wait, how does that work? No,
reverse, collect 4, don't stop past go. Go to jail.
Right, so I will be defending Big Star, and Dave will be defending Pixies.
You know, it's funny. I was actually listening to our last episode, and one of the things I was thinking was we talk about these things endlessly. We do a lot of prep coming in. Well, Cory and I do a lot of prep coming into the show, and and then we get together and we talk for a couple hours because, oh, by the way, if you're at home and you hear this thing and it's only about an hour long, that's after Cory cuts the shit out of it and edits it down to an hour. We talk for a couple hours. And all that work and all that input, and literally within a couple of days, I cannot remember anything. So I listen to the next episode, and it's like, it's all coming back from nowhere. So I was having that thought last week as I was listening to the last episode. And then I got to the end, and we go into a big diatribe about how, after we record the show, nobody can remember anything. So I had forgotten the conversation about how we forget everything.
Well, that's like a time loop, Dave.
I know, it's very meta.
Yeah, don't doubt.
Okay, Big Star, Third, also known as, what is
Sister Lovers.
Sister Lovers. Hello, Wisconsin! If you're like me, and I know I am, my introduction to Big Star happened in the opening credits of That 70s Show. Again, like Sparks, Big Star was an influential band to many of the bands we know and some of us love. In 2014, a benefit concert took place that was an homage to the band. Since the drummer, Jody Stevens, was the only survivor, to give you an idea of their influence, here are a few of the folks that also participated in this show. Mike Mills of REM, Mitch Easter of Let's Active, and also an early producer of REM, Amy Mann, members of the Posies, the Bangles, and Yo La Tango. An article in Diffuser lists 15 artists that owe Big Star a round. And after going through their 3 albums, yes, I did listen to all 3 of them, I was the overachiever of the week, I can clearly hear their influences in the following artists. Fastball. They had a big hit in the 90s called The Way. And the rest of that album, All the Pain Money Can Buy, it's very good. I recommend it. The Lemonheads. famously known for their cover of Simon & Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson. They were one of the first bands that paid tribute to Alex Chilton of Big Star after his death. The Bangles, on their big album with Manic Monday and Walk Like an Egyptian, is a cover of September Girls. Matthew Sweet of the song Girlfriend, incredibly influenced by Big Star. Elliott Smith, the I Was Murdered by Suicide artist we covered here on episode 12 in season 1, was also highly influenced. REM that I've mentioned, Michael Stipe, Peter Buck, and Mike Mills have all openly praised Big Star. And the Replacements, hello, they have a song called Alex Chilton. And as stated, Diffuser says that this song is the only Big Star song not written by Big Star. And finally, Wilco. When I heard this album, it was at one point I went, wait a minute, is Jeff Tweedy letting somebody else sing? This felt like a Wilco album. The influence is just tremendous. So in the past, I've used the analogy of the rock and roll tree where bands fall, but I'm going to switch that for a moment. Music is like an onion. Take the band or artist you like and peel back that layer, and beneath that layer are the artists that inspired them. Peel it again and discover the other artists that inspired them, and so forth and so on. To me, this is how I have discovered music. I read or listened to interviews that artists did, and they talked about the bands that inspired them, or the covers they chose, and then you go back and hear those other bands. So in conclusion, Big Star was there all along. They were just somewhere deeper in the onion. And I yield.
Deeper in the onion is such a weird segue.
Deeper in the onion.
It's gotta be a euphemism for something.
He said deeper. Yeah.
But yeah, REM. I listened to this album and I just kept hearing REM over and over and over again. And it's pretty clear that they would not exist were it not for this music. Elliott Smith, you also mentioned, totally, none of us were huge fans, quite frankly.
Matthew.
This is like, I was thinking these guys were Elliott Smith if Elliott Smith was actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's a good thing Elliott Smith's dead.
But, well, yeah, probably not for others in his life, but yeah. But yeah, just the influence here. It's kind of a miracle that this band, kind of like Sparks, you mentioned, most people have never heard of. That I had never heard of, frankly, before sitting down to work on this. It seems like there's a bit of a story there too. It seems like so first of all, Chilton had been the lead singer of a band called the Box Tops when he was 16 years old. They had a huge hit with a song called The Letter. He did not feel particularly free to create in that group. And it finally came to a head when actually in 69, he actually marched off stage and just said he was done. And that was kind of the end of them. He was such a strong singer, he actually got an offer to become the lead singer of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, which he turned down. And then comes Big Star. And Big Star, frankly, like I said, should have been huge, but it was like one mishap after another. So their first record was done by a company called Stax Record. By the time it was made, though, Stax was on the verge of bankruptcy and couldn't afford to promote it properly. So the Big Star record comes out. It gets all these fantastic reviews. People go to the record store to find it, and they can't because it isn't being distributed. They do their second record. Almost exact repeat performance, the same thing. Record company doesn't have the money or the interest, frankly, in distributing it properly. And then by the time you get to this record, it's sort of already fallen apart, honestly.
The band's already falling apart too.
There's so much good stuff here, but you hit points in here where you can almost hear that like they're done. They're just not really interested in finishing this thing.
You can feel the band unraveling here, especially if you listen to the other two albums and you get to this. Yeah. And they broke up after us. And I think a lot of that probably comes from the frustration of they get all these great accolades, all these people out there talking them up and going how great they are, and no one can find their album. Right. And they're just an underground success, and that's not enough.
Did you notice, too, that in researching it, how many various versions of this there are?
Yeah.
There's so many versions. I mean, there's upwards of like 24 tracks total.
Yep. There's even some debate over whether this is really even a Big Star record.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
it's weird.
Alex Chilton, the other guy whose name I can't think of right now, but anyway.
Chris Bell?
No, because Chris Bell left after the first album.
Oh, that's right.
And then died before they ever even got to this album. Chris Bell was I mean, everybody in Big Star had some drug problems, but Chris Bell had some particular drug problems. There's some speculation that part of his drug problems were being driven by the fact that he was in the closet because they were in Memphis in the 70s, and he not really a place where you wanted to come out at the time. And went out, got drunk, got high, wrapped his car around a pole at the age of 27 and was dead.
27 Club. Didn't know that.
27 Club. But back to whether this is a Big Star album. So they go and they do the recording sessions. When somebody finally sort of discovers it and says, we should put this out, they pull the recording sheets and they see the name Big Star. They see the name Sister Lovers. Nobody's sure whether Sister Lovers is supposed to be the name of the album or whether that was the name of a new band they were planning on putting together, because they had actually performed under that name previously. But they put it out, and according to Chilton, he's like, no, I never looked at this as a Big Star record. That was a marketing move by the record company. Wow.
Yeah, it kind of explains it, because if you look at the test pressing, there was some demo versions and there's all this weird stuff on there, and then the first pressing, it's almost not even the same thing.
Yeah.
It was really strange to me. I was like, that is really the most bizarre journey for an album to take. Musically, though, it's really good. Go figure. Like you said, I heard a lot of Matthew Sweet, that whole, and like you were saying, REM, of course, but definitely that influence there.
No, I was going to say the Chilton story. I mentioned the Box Tops earlier and him storming off stage. You know, he struggled with that band because he wasn't given any real creative freedom. And then sort of the irony is Big Star comes along, they start doing great work. He's got all the creative freedom in the world, and it still basically completely bombs.
Through no fault of his own.
Through bad business decisions by a record company, not for anything that the band did.
They did everything, from a band's perspective, they did everything right.
Yep.
Right. Didn't Chilton die in like 2010, 2013?
He did. So, by the early 80s, he was still dealing with his drug and drinking problems. He decides he's got to make a break. He leaves Memphis. He goes down to New Orleans. One article I read said he's got to be the only guy in the world who ever went to New Orleans to get away from drugs.
Wow.
So he goes down to New Orleans, and he's just, interestingly, and there's comments about this, like when he was in Big Star too. He was totally disinterested in being famous. He's like, I was a celebrity when I was 16 years old. Fame is overrated. I'm interested in making good music. So he goes to New Orleans. He gets a job as a dishwasher at a restaurant. And he plays a couple of gigs here and there at local clubs and buys I mean, Cory, you mentioned that the Bangles covered one of the songs, and then there was the song that became the theme song to that 70s show. Money starts rolling in from that finally. And what does he do? He spends $13,000 on a cottage in the Treme neighborhood of New Orleans, which Treme is like historically poor black area. So this rundown little cottage that he's working on fixing up. He didn't care about the money. He didn't care about the fame. And he kind of lived out his life quietly.
For him, it was always about the music.
It was always about the music. Yeah, actually, another interesting coincidence in terms of the day we're recording this. I mean, we had an interesting coincidence with God Save the Queen. We're currently recording this on March 12th, which means the South by Southwest Festival started yesterday.
Ooh.
Chilton was supposed to play the South by Southwest Festival. And three days before the show was when he finally had a heart attack and died.
Wow. That is quite the coincidence. South by Southwest. Ah, yes.
And it's also the anniversary of the Allman Brothers at Fillmore East.
That's right.
Well, there you go. Wow. It's an auspicious day, It is.
Okay. I mean, we could rant and rave about Big Star.
But I liked it.
I really did too. I really enjoyed their other albums as well. Very much so.
It's a fine album.
Okay. I think we can move on.
I think so. All right. So, Pixies Doolittle. Charles Michael Kittredge Thompson IV was a good boy. He liked folk songs and Christian rock. He once even won a Teenager of the Year award. After high school, he went to the University of Massachusetts at Amherst to study anthropology. That's where he met Joey Santiago, a guitarist who turned him on to punk music and David Bowie. An exchange program took him down to Puerto Rico, where he hoped to learn Spanish, but he didn't learn Spanish. And after 6 months with a psycho roommate, he finally bailed out. He felt like he had two options at that point. Option 1, go to New Zealand to see Halley's Comet. Or, after thinking it over, go with option 2, asking Santiago to help him form a band. A newspaper ad led them both to bassist Kim Deal. Deal's husband led them to drummer David Lovering. And then Santiago opened a dictionary to a random page and chose a random word, Pixies. Their new band now had a name. Charles Thompson IV also had a new name, taking on the stage name Black Francis. Their first full-length album, Surfer Rosa, was full of unusual progression and surreal lyrics. It got acclaim for its sound, having been produced by soon-to-be famous Steve Albini. To be honest, Albini was unimpressed, calling the Pixies, quote, blandly entertaining college rock. But the public disagreed. Surfer Rosa made the Pixies huge in Europe. Kurt Cobain was so impressed with it, he'd later hire Albini for Nirvana's In Utero album. Albini was unimpressed again, later bluntly referring to Nirvana as, quote, REM with a fuzz box. Doolittle, the follow-up to Surfer Rosa, is often considered their most accessible album. See, Surfer Rosa had been huge, but it wasn't exactly radio-friendly for its time. Now, Doolittle is hardly a sellout to top 40, but it did tone down the weirdness just a little. That's most evident in the single Here Comes Your Man. Written by Black Francis at age 15, it's the poppiest thing they ever recorded. But it's still got that Pixies oddity with lyrics about hobos dying on trains in an earthquake. And while weird indie acts weren't uncommon in 1989, the Pixies were always a bit weirder than everybody else. Lyrics about suicide and mutilated eyeballs. Vocals that sound like a man in physical pain with Francis outright screaming at points. Doolittle was the second title. Francis originally wanted to call the album Whore. Even the sleeve was weird. Photos of a bell with human teeth. A spoonful of horsehair. On the cover, a monkey with a halo surrounded by religious symbols and numbers. If Here Comes Your Man is the only Pixies song you know, brush up. The Pixies had range. That track may be poppy, but other tracks on this album are pure crank it to 11 rock. Indeed, the whole quiet to loud dynamic that's now so common in other acts can be traced back to Doolittle. Consider the opening of Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit, you know the one. 4 measures of mild guitar before Dave Grohl's drums pounce and all hell breaks loose. Well, after he wrote it, Kurt Cobain was worried the fans would complain that he just ripped off the Pixies. Like Surfer Rosa, Doolittle was acclaimed by fans and critics alike. It became the Pixies' first album to enter the Billboard Top 200. And 10 years after the band split up, it was still selling between 500 and 1,000 copies a week. It even got Steve Albini to admit he was wrong, who retracted his bland college rock critique a few years later. But by that point, the Pixies were already done. Kim Deal had left, believing that her songwriting contributions weren't appreciated. She'd eventually go on to found another influential band called The Breeders. Black Francis became Frank Black, working solo, and with Frank Black and the Catholics. But none of those projects ever quite recaptured what the Pixies did with Doolittle. In just a few years, they actually changed their trajectory of alt-rock and laid a groundwork for grunge. And considering that trademark Pixies weirdness, it does seem appropriate that it only happened because a former Christian rock listening Teenager of the Year changed his mind about going to watch some comet in New Zealand. And I yield.
This album is a jam.
Yeah.
I've always just, you put Pixies on, just, that's your pick-me-up in the morning. You run out of coffee, put some Pixies on. Surfer Rosa, I love that album. Doolittle, Bossa Nova, they're all just great. But what I never really realized was how much biblical references are in this album in particular.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud listening to this album because there are so many references that Frank Black just tossed in there, and it was like, oh, cool, I see what you're doing, dude. I mean, the thing, like you say, is it's chock-a-block, and you're like,
I mean, it's like I said, he was raised as a good Catholic boy, and that stuff stuck with him.
Now, what I liked is, in Here Comes Your Man, do you notice how it opens with like that Hard Day's Night chord before it goes into that plucky kind of 60s feel?
That's the Hendrix purple chord.
Oh, it's the purple chord.
That's the Hendrix chord, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Like,
but just the way they played that and held it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of like a Hard Day's Night, and then to kind of go into that feel, I was like, yeah, that fits.
Yeah, apparently Santiago was like a big fan of using the Hendrix chord over and over again, and so he like tacked that on at the beginning.
The purple chord. Yeah, you mentioned Debaser, how it was based on, debased, on a silent film that Dolly was part of. The whole eye cutting and all is done in this silent movie. And I read about the silent movie, but it was so fucked up. I remember nothing about it, about what I read, because it has no plot.
No.
It goes nowhere. There's just a lot of like weird scenes. And in the end, there is this moth, this death head's moth. And so I clicked on it to see what the picture of it was. And son of a bitch, if it's not the same moth used in Silence of the Lambs.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the one where, like, when they zoom in, like, it's actually nude women on the back, like where the skull head on the back is actually
Yes.
nude women crouching together, and that he's got them
Yep.
arranged in a way. Yeah,
No,
that
you
film-
failed that Rorschach.
What's that?
You failed that
did I?
Rorschach.
Did I? Yeah, that film is called En Chien Andalou, and that's where I forget which track.
This boy's got some fucking problems.
If you listen to this album, I think it's on the first track, maybe the second track.
It's the first song,
Is it the first
Debaser.
one? So
Yes.
where Black guy's got more stage name than John Mellencamp, but
Yeah, he does.
The where he's basically
Black
screaming,
Francis. Yeah.
I am Un Chien Andalusia. Yeah, so En Chien Andalou is the name of the album, or the name of the film, excuse me. And he basically, I don't know if he butchered the name of the film on purpose or whether he just misremembered it when he was like cranking out the lyrics.
And the way he sings it kind of fills the music properly, so I let it go. I mean, think about it. Back then, we didn't have Google, we didn't have Wikipedia, we couldn't look this shit up. I mean, we just had to go, what is he saying? And when it was in French, if you didn't know French, you would just think, he's just mumbling something. He's Michael Stipe mumbling for all you know.
Right.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, for me, the album was just a lot of fun to listen to. It was more fun than Big Star, which felt like they were working at it, which they were. And
Yep.
yeah, exactly. And but this one felt like it was just fun, and it's fun to listen to because it comes off that way.
I think Pixies is, I mentioned that Here Comes Your Man is generally considered their most, quote unquote, accessible song. Black Francis was really heavily influenced by surrealism in that movie. And I think what's off-putting for some people, everybody knows Here Comes Your Man. You'll get a lot of, I never really cared for the Pixies, but I like that song. Because most of the other stuff on this album, that surrealist edge is off-putting for some people. The odd lyrics, even his musical compositions tend to like zig when you expect them to zag. And people struggle with that, I think.
Which is very surreal.
Yeah.
In and of itself.
That's the sign of genius right there.
And one of the funny things I read was their producer, Gil Norton, who I think has produced every album since this one, because he wasn't on the first one, was going to Black Francis, and telling him, hey, why don't you add another verse? Why don't you make this a little bit longer? And so Francis takes him down to the music store and hands him Buddy Holly's greatest hits. And he goes, look, this cat did all these songs in 2 to 3 minutes or less. You can pick up on that.
Yeah.
But Gil Norton also produced the Foo Fighters' second album and has done a ton of other work. From Liverpool and an Everton fan. So I'll throw that out there.
If you are a fan of Here Comes Your Man, you can thank Gil Norton for that, actually, because, like I said, Black Francis wrote Here Comes Your Man at age 15. By the time he was an adult and they were making this album, he thought it was a little too conventional, a little too poppy. Gil Norton pushed him to put it on this album and pushed pretty hard. It took off. You want to know how much Black Francis hated that song, though? Shortly after this album, they get a call from the producers at the Arsenio Hall show. We want the Pixies to come on and play. They said, "Well, I understand that reaction, Scott, but in the early '90s, getting on the Arsenio Hall show, like that was a good fucking deal if you were an artist trying to break through.
That's like getting on Letterman at that time.
Absolutely,
it was a big deal.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And they said, "Okay, well, what does he want to hear? What does he want us to play?" And they said, "Well, he'd like you to come on and play Here Comes Your Man." They said, "Yeah, that's okay. We'll take a pass."
Wow.
So this huge opportunity, they basically walked away from just because they refused to play that song.
Wow. Well, they were like, no, go fuck yourself.
And then the other song, the La La Love You, Francis gave to the drummer to sing. And so he does it. At first he was apprehensive. No, I don't want to do it. And Kim Deal is actually playing the steel guitar. And then they couldn't get the drummer away from the microphone afterwards. But the best line about it is at the end, it's like, this configuration never, ever happened again. They did it once. He kind of gave it to him like like the Beatles gave Ringo a song. Here you go. We want you to sing this one. Never happened again.
Yeah, well, there was a reason for that.
I think the other big single off this album that probably a lot of non-Pixies fans have heard is Wave of Mutilation.
And the different version that was in the soundtrack, Pump Up the Volume.
Right. I always, in fact, honestly, until I started prepping for this show, I always heard that first line as cease to exist. It's actually cease to resist. But apparently my interpretation is a little bit more appropriate, because what I also didn't realize is he wrote that song about this phenomena of like stressed out Japanese businessmen loading their families into cars and driving off cliffs into the water.
Nice.
Which happened frequently enough that it inspired this song. So Cease to Exist makes sense too.
He brought a lot of his happy Catholicism with him into music writing.
Yep.
There's a lot of angst to draw from there.
All right. We got anything else on Pixies here?
I will don my stuff and go to my chambers and deliberate and come back and give you my verdict.
All right. Well, we'll be back.
Hey everybody, this is Dave, and I just want to take a quick minute to thank you all for listening. You know, we have a lot of fun making this show for you, and we hope you're enjoying what you hear. And if you are enjoying the show, why not take a minute to subscribe? All you have to do is just search for Musical Shenanigans on your favorite podcast app. We're on all of them, like iHeartRadio, Amazon, Apple, Spotify. Once you find us, you just tap that little subscribe button. You never ever have to worry about missing an episode again. It'll be right there on your phone when it comes out. Also, we'd love it if you tell your friends about us. In fact, if you're with a friend right now, next time they get up to leave the room, you know what, just grab their phone and subscribe them as well. I'm sure they'll thank you for it. And as always, we always love your feedback. You can always drop us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or you can tweet at us at _shenanigan. Please let us know what you think. We'd love to hear it. All right, that's enough shameless plugging. Again, thank you for listening, and now back to the show.
And we're back with Big Star versus the Pixies, or Pixies versus the Big Star, or something like that. Anyway, I was deliberating, praise Satan, and I have come up with the proper answer to this dilemma which I was presented with. Big Star, while being a fine album and full of fine people, are just not fucking good enough. And frankly, to hell with them. Send them to the dogs for the dogs to whittle on. May the cows whittle on them too. May the chickens pee on them as well. And may the eggs of 1,000 goats leave their marks all over them like a stain from a brown camel.
Wait, hold on.
Going...
Goats lay eggs?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going with Pixies.
I would agree here, only because of...
Yeah, wow.
And we covered this in the fact that...
It was just more fun to listen to, man.
Big Star was falling apart.
Yeah,
and actually, we are in alignment here with Rolling Stone. Big Star came in at 285, and Pixies were at number 142.
Not surprised.
All right, we'll take a short little break here. Stick around for something fun.
Here it comes,
Fun
boy.
for everyone.
Except that guy over there.
And we'll be back.
It's no fun for him. He ain't having no fun. That motherfucker, he's like, oh, shit.
A masterpiece adult dinner and LARPing entertainment theater proudly presents Our Dinner with Ye, a one-act drama for your listening pleasure. The dramatis personae are Ye, Kim, Pete, the lawman, and the Liverpool Shakespearean Ballet Troupe as the Copper Ensemble. Our play begins on a balmy summer's eve. Inside Kim's opulent dining hall, Kim and Pete are enjoying a freshly stuffed beaver when Ye enters unannounced.
Behold, my love, forsooth, she is the beat that drives Ye's heart. With beats none other have laid down, nor will ever conceive better than Ye, the most wondrous Kim. For to say thy name, my beloved Balderdashian Carcrashian, makes beats almost as good as album 3 of Ye.
Be gone, foul knave! We have divorced! Ye fucking impervious nit!
How dare you disturb our repast? 'Tis best you darken our feast at this time. Then, when I shall be submerging the Stratoliner in Wondrous Kim's cavern of great width and tremendous depth in great repetition, good sir.
Ah, Benedict, he doth know skills of those associated with aqueducts and wise owls seeking centers of candied items upon sticks. Again, be gone from these premises, O lawmen and lawyers. I shall hearken to ye.
Pete rises, going to lead Ye out, walking with a slight limp from a large protrusion along his left thigh.
Foul, malodorous malingerer, touch ye not, For roses countless ye shall send to thee, wondrous Kim, of bosom so donder, divine, divine! Poor Skeet, for that is your name, shall sleep with moles and with worms as ye returns to claim what is ye's.
Nay, knave, for he is Benedict, a very good dick indeed, and at cockcrow he verily finds the crack.
Chasm? But you, knave, may address me as Admiral of the Fleet, Skeet.
Aside, Kim.
I doth wonder if thy alchemist has but given thee false remedy for your malady.
Aside, to Pete.
The alchemist ye employs is indeed false, and from a cart doth peddle his wares behind the apothecary at the riverside. Yet time it is for to obtain a writ to have this knave disturb our dealings no more. His horns, methink, make him mad.
Restrain ye! Restrain ye! Nay, villain! Ye is God! Ye is Jesus Christ arisen! No one shall restrain ye! Ye cannot restrain ye! Skeet, you foul meridian!
Aside, to Kim again, and ye, still not noticing.
For his madness may in violence seek. To feast we should invite. Have thee the hemlock?
Ye, in the spirit of those you have named, join us in feast. Be not wroth. Your seed hath tied our souls together through our children. Sit, feast, make merry with us.
Aside to Pete. Boy, do these people talk amongst themselves way too much.
For he shall soon tire himself in long-winded pontifications. It is his wont.
And now, Skeet, Pete tries to lead ye to a seat at the table.
Away, foul dog! Ye is the light! Ye can smell the cheese! Ye breaks the broken! Ye breaks the unbroken! Evil tempter of wondrous Kim! Prevail ye will not!
I will not, or you will not, for I am confused.
Of much ado it is not. Ye cannot grace the walls of my pool.
Perhaps a pool genie you doth seek.
Nay, nay, dear Benedict, thy genie is more magical than ye's wand.
Oh, cruel fate! Why doth thou mocketh me, ye? Wondrous Kim possessed by Satan himself, Cory Gamble, and ye is without doubt, without hope, with but a twig gainst a mighty oak. For I am a pea this false princess feels not betwixt her folds.
Twice now? My pie hath been savaged by such mockery. Begone, foul knave, or lawmen shall come and detain. And dear Skeet, make it not thrice this night thine ear hear of caverns wide and deep, or with this knave you shall couple within bars.
I beg pardon whilst I conjure your genie.
Forever haunted is ye by wondrous Kim and thy cruelty. Thine heart beats by beats that only ye creates and others duplicate, sold for $200 on a stem player that I put out. For only you, dear Donda, Kim, wondrous Kim, to the heap ye is tossed for such fleshed monstrosity. This scoundrel, this true knave, this dumb doofus dingoful, wondrous Kim, permits to flood from whence our children came? Shame, shame on all of it.
The lawman enters. Stop this! 'Tis silly! You, ye, with me you shall... Oh, God be praised!
'Tis foul witchery, satanic husbandry begat that three-legged monster.
Look upon that! Chicken! Oswald! Absalom! Lads, come in here! An ensemble of lawmen dance unto the scene, and behold Skeet. Pete, look at this! Behold!
God praises ye, not Skeet. Ye is king, ye is God, ye is... Ah!
Ye is struck and collapses.
Mine eyes lieth up here, coppers, not upon the floor. Thine wives knoweth the drill. As indeed thine wives knoweth mine own drill.
And curtain. This has been a masterpiece, adult dinner and LARPing entertainment theater production of Our Dinner with Ye. Thank you.
All right, we are back. We are back for round two. And in round two, we are going to have, as Cory mentioned earlier, Body Talk by Robyn, going head to head with the album Stand, not to be confused with the song Stand by Sly and the Family Stone. And we are going to have, actually, I think, Scott, you're going to be going first, talking about Robyn, and then we will move on to Cory's defense of Sly and the Family Stone. And so, Scott, whenever you are ready, please proceed.
Aye, aye, Captain. I'll be coming in and telling you about the lovely lass Robyn. Okay.
Is this a John Cage work?
What? No.
Well done. That was well done.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're giving your defense in Morse code. Okay.
Right, okay, no. Okay, cue the music. And born Robyn Miriam Carlson, but professionally known as Robyn, that's R-O-B-Y-N. Her real name is spelled R-O-B-I-N, but she goes by Robyn, we'll say Robyn. Okay, this artist is something a little different from Sweden. When most people think of Sweden, they often think of, well, black metal, sled dogs, salty licorice, and symphonic death metal. I mean, that's what I thought of. But all that aside, the Batman of New Switzerland, as she is often referred to, Robyn became an overnight success in the used dildo underground market.
Discount dildos.
I believe the industry term is certified pre-owned.
Yes.
As a girl, Robyn would liberate dildos from people's homes and wash them and resell them. This led to a thriving business venture, which was later invested in by Kanye West and promoted on Instagram by none other than Kim Kardashian. Entrepreneur, sexual deviant, drug kingpin, space pirate, Robyn certainly has it all. Today, Robyn runs a multi-billion-dollar used sex toy business and currently is heading up the first manned Ethiopian Mars mission, during which she is going to plant the flag on the Red Planet. Her numerous humanitarian efforts have earned the title of Most Constant UTI of the Year. What Robyn did for electronica and pop dance music, she also did for sex toy addicts everywhere. And I yield.
Oh, wow. That tells me everything.
It's like it's like also like 25 seconds long once he actually got going.
I think we actually patted him.
See, there you go. Yeah, you helped. Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, there was really just not much to say. This woman has been making music since she was like 12 years old. Yeah. And it's kind of fascinating. She was signed by RCA Records in Switzerland.
Sweden.
And wherever the fuck she's from, okay? Swaziland. Look, we're gonna say Beijing. We're just gonna say Beijing, and we're gonna leave it at that. She's from Beijing. Anyway, her and Kanye West put together that side business, and through that, I mean, she's epically rich now. And but actually, the album's very good. It's I mean, the track with Snoop Dogg on it was fucking great.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? That was one of my favorite ones too.
I listened to that 3 or 4 times. It was so good. And just a couple of the other tracks too are just like, hell yeah, those are play over and play over and play over kind of tracks. The whole album is, and it's a banger. It's a great album. So.
Oh shit, we're calling them bangers now.
Well, it's appropriate in this case though, because I mean, this is club music. You know, this is a different genre than what we often talk about. This is music for clubs, and it's not watered down club music. I mean, this is honest to God club music. But what Robyn sort of did differently is it's club music with introspection. Like she's actually singing. It's not just, hey, fill up your glass and let's party all night. This is like she's singing about feelings and emotions and actual shit that she's living through. She's just doing it within the framework of club music. And by the way, right. I mean, not my favorite genre, but as club music goes, really fucking good club music.
Yeah.
It was rather enjoyable. I had nothing against it. It's just not my wheelhouse.
Right.
I did enjoy it. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, okay, turn that shit off.
Yeah, I actually listened to the whole damn thing, which is I don't normally do. I'll just say that up front. But her stuff, yeah, I actually listened to all of it.
Yeah, I mean, back to this theme about her sort of injecting her real life and real experiences into this music. There were her first album was huge in Sweden. They tried to sign her in the United States. She basically turned them down, and they ended up going with Britney Spears, and that's like a whole other long story. But Britney Spears is essentially was supposed to be the American Robyn. That was what they were thinking when they hired her.
That's what they called her. And Jive Records was the one that was trying to sign her. And when they said, well, it'll be easier to control Britney than the forceful Swedish singer.
Yeah, because Robyn had opinions, man.
Right.
Even as a teenager, she
Right.
had opinions, and of course, when you talk about, well, she'll be easier to control. In the last year or so, we've learned how that played out for Britney, and sort of a cautionary tale.
You go, Britney.
But Robyn goes back to Sweden. She does a second album, which doesn't get distributed in the United States because it had a couple of songs on there where she talked about her real life experience of having an abortion. And they said, we want to bring this album to the U.S., but U.S. audiences aren't going to listen to songs about abortion. And she said, well, fuck them then. I guess it's not going to the U.S.
All right, who cares?
She gonna do it her way.
She's going to do it her way. In addition to the gently used dildo company that she runs with Snoop, she actually does run a second company. She has her own recording label.
Yeah, she's a producer.
Because once again, like, the label wanted to do something one way. She didn't like it. So she took basically every cent she had made off the first two albums, bought out her contract, and started her own label called Konnichiwa Records, which I guess the title actually comes from a Chappelle Show skit. There was an episode of Chappelle Show where they took celebrities who were racially ambiguous, where you couldn't quite pin down like what their racial background was. And they had like an NFL draft where they had different races bidding on like to actually claim them for their own. The Japanese delegation takes Wu-Tang Clan, and after that, after they claim Wu-Tang Clan for their bid, apparently GZA from Wu-Tang Clan turns around and says, "Konnichiwa, bitches," and that's where the name of the record company comes from, because she was a big fan of Chappelle's Show.
That's pretty awesome.
This album, though, one thing I think we do need to talk about is the way this album was released. Because this was not, hey, here's my new album, it's dropping tomorrow. This was, she actually, in 2010, she announces at the beginning of the year that rather than doing one new album, she's going to release a series of mini albums.
So there were, what, 3 or 4 of them?
There were three total. It was supposed to be 3. It was supposed to be 3 mini albums. What she actually did was she put together, she worked on some songs. When she felt she had a few songs together, she released Body Talk Part 1, which was a few tracks. Later in the year, she releases Body Talk Part 2, which is a few tracks. And then she announces toward the end of the year, okay, I'm not going to do a third mini album. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stuff that I thought worked the best from the first 2, and I'm going to add some new stuff on top of that and release a full Body Talk that's kind of combination best of plus some new material. And really that doesn't sound so weird today, because you have, especially like hip hop artists doing that kind of thing all the time now.
With their mixtapes.
But in 2010,
Yes.
nobody was doing it. She was sort of the first one to lock on to, hey, wait a minute, we're now like in an age of streaming. There's no reason you have to wait until you have an entire album anymore.
Right.
And it keeps your name in the mainstream.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And now everybody's doing that. Everybody's putting out EPs all the time. EP.
Or like we covered before with Drake, the mixtape, whatever fuck that is. It's not what we consider a mixtape or anybody, in our generation, but it's what they're calling it now.
Prior to 1990?
Yeah.
That's being generous.
That's what I'm saying. Like, now it's so mainstream that you don't think twice about it, but nobody was doing it before she did it. She was this little 5 foot whatever
sex toy entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. And she sort of saw this wave of the future, and she took it and ran. Right. So once again, I'm going to do things my way. I don't really care what anybody else is telling me to do.
She's a badass.
Hence the used dildos. Yep.
I have nothing else to add. I don't know if anybody's anything you want to throw in.
I'm going to fall down the stairs now.
I'm good.
So if we have nothing else on Robyn, shall we proceed to Sly and the Family Stone?
May I proceed?
You may proceed anytime you are ready.
I will shut up now.
Growing up, my parents had the greatest hits album of Sly and the Family Stone, which is pretty much most of the Stand album. 5 of the 8 songs are on the greatest hit. The younger me would play this and bounce around the house to it. I associated the sound of this album with Sesame Street, oddly enough, because Sesame Street was not exactly mainstream, and creating music appealing to everyone what encapsulated what the younger generation was into. Basically, our 20-something parents could also enjoy the show and not be annoyed or turned off by it because Sesame Street wasn't playing Lawrence fucking Welk. So trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. The positivity in Sesame Street I can see coming from songs from this album. Take Stand. Stand up for yourself, your community, and what you believe in. And a message that still rings true 50 years later. The line, Stan, you've been sitting much too long. There's a permanent crease in your right and wrong. I want to take you higher. This is more of a feel-good song I associated, of course, again, with Sesame Street. It's upbeat, it's positive, and it's the spiritual power of music. And believe it or not, this song was a huge hit at Woodstock. You got that crowd going with this one. Sing a Simple Song, another fun-loving song, and I would say was likely the inspiration for Sesame Street's big hit, Sing. The song Sing, Sing a Song. We all know that one. Yep. In fact, if you're singing that song in your head, take a moment and go to pbs.org/donate and at least drop $5 to them. I'm a proud child of PBS television, and PBS television is where they make better humans in teaching us to share and love one another. Which leads me to the last song, Everyday People. This song promotes peace and equality across races and all cultures. I am everyday people basically meant we are part of the whole and not part of some smaller group. This was the message that Sly and Family Stone brought, and I will end this with their lyrics. Sometimes I'm right and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I'm no better, and neither are you. We're all the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you can't figure out what bag I'm in. I am everyday people. And I yield.
Well said.
Well done. Yeah, Woodstock. You mentioned they were on Woodstock. They were played. I think it was the last day of Woodstock actually, and they actually didn't start until 3:00 in the morning.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, their set started at 3 a.m. and apparently they still had like the crowd in the palm of their hand even at that hour.
Wow. That says something about audiences back then, you know?
Yeah, well, it says something about the drugs back then too.
Yeah, usually you're on like the third wave of the acid at 3:00 in the morning, so perfect timing.
But Sly and the Family Stone, led by a guy whose real name was Sylvester Stewart, went by Sly Stone as his stage name. He was kind of like Prince in that he was sort of like a boy genius in terms of songwriting, in terms of mastering multiple instruments. We talked about Robyn sort of taking club music and showing that it can actually have some emotion and some thought behind it. Sly and the Family Stone were really one of the first to sort of take R&B and soul and say, look, we can actually talk about big important things in this music too. You don't have to be a folk musician to want to actually make things better in the world. So they were a biracial band. They had men and women in the band. A lot of the songs were about, Cory, you hit it, about optimism and racial equality and making things better and standing up to Goliaths. It was groundbreaking in a lot of ways.
It was. And that whole positive feeling they gave with it, the whole, like building self-esteem or being yourself and being part of the whole, they were the kind of themes. I really think that the people at Sesame Street writing songs looked to this and went, yeah, that's the message we want.
Yep, I agree.
I like how you tied in Sesame Street.
As a kid, I always associated the two. I mean, I know it was probably a far reach, but you'd hear the songs, the catchy songs with the different urban sounds and beats that they used for the alphabet songs and teaching. And whenever I heard Sly and the Family Stone, I, as a kid, presumed they were the ones making the music for them.
To me, Sly and the Family Stone kind of had that, I don't want to, well, they kind of had that porno music sound. From old 70s porn when everybody had a bush.
Thank you for ruining my analogy.
Well, but he's right. He's right.
No, he is right. He is. He's absolutely right.
He is right. And part of it is actually because I think of their bassist. Sly and the Family Stone, the bass player, was one of the first bassists to actually use a slap technique on the bass.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's probably where you're getting a lot of that similarity.
That popping sound. Yep. Love that shit. It's musically, it's so fucking good. I loved listening to that album. It was like, oh, what a pleasure. The top-notch musicianship.
Yeah, oh, really? They absolutely.
And just wow. that won me over.
It's I totally agree. And with that positive message, it's a shame that it kind of didn't take, because honestly, this is in the you can't please everybody category. First, you had their record label saying, we want you to make stuff that's more marketable. They actually had the Black Panthers come out and say, we want you to fire the 2 white guys. And we want you to start making music that's more militant, not quite this like poppy, happy stuff.
Wow.
And then where things really started going wrong for the band is, man, I said the drugs were better in the 60s. These guys definitely knew that the drugs were better. They all developed pretty severe habits. It was among all of them. They had multiple gigs where they wouldn't show at all, or they would show up and only do a few songs because then they'd start passing out on stage, literally passing out on stage.
Now that's professional.
That's professionalism. And I mean, just to show you how bad things got, a few years later, in 1975, they book Radio City Music Hall in New York for a big concert. And by this point, they had already gotten such a reputation as a band that couldn't actually follow through. They only sold out 1/8 of the seats. They actually had to work to scrape together enough money to get everybody back home to California because they had lost so much money on that show.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
The good news is they mostly cleaned their shit up. Basically everybody but Sly Stone. Sly Stone sort of becomes a nouveau Syd Barrett. He continued with the heavy drug use. You start seeing evidence of some mental health issues. The last thing we've heard from Sly Stone back in 2011, the New York Post did an article reporting that he was homeless, that he was living in a camper van in one of the worst neighborhoods in LA, and actually had a retired couple that lived nearby who would come by once a day to make sure he was eating.
That's sad.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
But that's what the excessive drug use will do to you.
Yep.
That don't do drugs, kids. Or if you do, don't do them to that extent. Of course, most of you won't be able to afford it because drugs are expensive, children.
Well, see if you're get yourself a medical card and see if insurance will cover it for you.
Exactly. Hence the PSA.
Yes.
And that's how it ties into Sesame
That's what
Street.
Sesame Street taught me, is that drugs are expensive.
Yeah, exactly. No one's just going to hand them to you for free.
Actually, speaking of Sesame Street and racial and ethnic equality, Luis from Sesame Street just died this week.
He passed away this week, yeah.
And
I saw that.
And for a lot of folks, I think he was, if you're of our generation, that was sort of like the first Hispanic person you saw on television as a kid.
Yep. He was a little Hispanic kid.
I know. That was sad.
He was like, see, I'm a jalapeno on a stick.
Okay, that's Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, I forgot. Well, whatever. Anal jalapeno,
And with that, I think we'll take a break here. Dave, you go deliberate.
Go deliberate. Do your thing.
We will be right back.
Musical shenanigans! Do you like the music, lad?
Do you like podcasts?
Do you like expert analysis of music on podcasts?
Well, hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And here it is, Musical Shenanigans. Find us on your favorite podcast platform. So far, we've bribed Apple, Amazon, and iHeart, to name a few.
And we have compromising pictures of the others.
Also, find us on Twitter at @M_Shenanigan, because Kanye follows us. Okay, maybe he doesn't. All right, Dave, bring us back in.
All right.
Hey!
Or that.
All right, we are back.
Sorry.
I have carefully considered your arguments and concluded that both of your briefs are very full. So, look, when Cory told us that these 2 albums were going to go head-to-head, my immediate reaction was club music versus 60s soul. That's weird. And then as I started listening and prepping for the show, I actually realized these albums are very similar in a lot of ways. I mean, they both took a musical genre that was pretty simplistic before they came along and elevated it. They both added a lot of musical complexity. Lyrically, they both started exploring new themes that were not really previously associated with that particular genre. And in both of those cases, the genre in question was pretty much just poppy dance music. That, you could do, the fact that you could do all this stuff with a dance rhythm in a major key was very novel for both acts. So when I thought about those kinds of similarities, it suddenly got actually really hard to pick one over the other. And then I realized there actually is one way to distinguish these, and that's in terms of the long-term impact. The Sly and the Stone album is great. Sly and the Family Stone album is great. But they didn't really have a big punch in the longer term. Body Talk, on the other hand, not only inspired quite a lot of other artists. I mean, you mentioned Kesha, we talked about Britney Spears. It was really sort of a wake-up call that the fundamental way the industry was making music had changed. That in an era of digital music, you didn't actually need to release a whole album at once. You didn't need to be beholden to your label. You could actually make what you want when you wanted it. Put it out when you think it's ready. And not only was Robyn right about that, like I said, 12 years later, everybody's now doing it that way. So for basically having the vision that essentially transformed an entire industry, I got to go with Robyn on this one.
And we have an upset, ladies and gentlemen. Sly and the Family Stone was ranked at 119, and Robyn was at 196.
Ooh.
Yep.
So there you have it.
We just tossed that dog off a cliff and heard it yelping the whole way down.
That's a pleasant metaphor.
Wow. What? That's horrible.
Cruella de
That's
Vil.
fucking horrible. Please tell me it was like into a body of water and at least, lived.
There were some blueberries.
What?
Don't even know what that means, actually.
Oh yeah, all over the place. they used it for the anal thing. Yeah. Don't worry. Good job.
All right. Are you ready for the next lineups?
Oh,
we
yeah.
are. Hit me.
This is all over the place. So
I like this one. Well, okay.
in round 1, we have Leonard Cohen with Songs of Leonard Cohen from 1967 against Arctic Monkeys with AM.
Wow.
In round 2, Dr. Dre, Chronic, against Television, Marquee Moon.
Who?
It's a really good album.
It
Okay.
is.
Television, yeah.
It is.
So those will be our matchups next time.
All right.
Please subscribe. Hit that like button. I'm not
Hit
sure.
dogs off cliffs.
I don't even know how to look to see if you've liked us or not. I'm not that really adept at all of this. I can just put the show up there and follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at @M_shenanigan.
No dogs were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Thank God.
Many, many dildos were, however.
No, praise
Yes.
Satan.
Many
Praise-
gently used.
Thank you, Robyn,
Yes. Thank you for your contribution to mankind.
and this podcast.
And the earth. The earth thanks you for reusable, for recycling and
Yeah.
reusing.
Yes.
Yes.
She's lowering her carbon footprint, or her carbon, dildo print. Whatever the right word is. for that.
Her carbon mushroom print.
Her carbon mushroom tip. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, God. All right, folks. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And we'll catch you next time.
Au revoir.
Yo. Later, bitches.
Konnichiwa, bitches.
Praise Satan.
Praise Satan.
All right.
And we're going to stop
Recording, you stupid fox! Oh my god, what is wrong with you? There's something wrong with you.
Go kicking dogs off a cliff. Kick the dog off a cliff. Kick the dog off a cliff, motherfucker.